Ladies and gentlemen, presented by GM Fleet, welcome to Outdoor Experiences and your new customer. Please welcome the President of the RV Industry Association, Frank Hugelmeyer.
Thank you for being here, and how about a hand for today's sponsor, GM Fleet. And welcome to our general session on the changing habits of younger consumers and their expectations around the outdoor experiences. KOA is the world's largest system of private campgrounds and the leader in outdoor hospitality and a great partner in outdoor recreation. Over 85% of KOA campers do so in an RV, and it's critical that we work together to create positive experiences for them. Over the next hour, you're going to hear from the latest from KOA and their North American Camping Report, as well as how we, as an industry, can reach and attract new consumers to the RV camping lifestyle. As the leader of Kampgrounds of America, Toby O'Rourke is not only a great friend, but a visionary in this space. She oversees programs, services, and marketing that support the brand's 515 plus franchised and company-owned locations across North America. And she knows everything about your customers. So ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the President and CEO of KOA, Toby O'Rourke.
Good morning. What a great kickoff to camping season, and we need to talk about camping, right, on a day like this. So sloppy out there, right? Well, I'm glad you all made it. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Frank, for that great introduction, and congratulations to you and Liz on putting together such a powerful event. I find there's a lot of strength here in collaborative energy between manufacturers and dealers, campgrounds, suppliers, and media, all calling for people to go buy RVs, go camping, and simply get outside. And it's really important that we do this. The reality is that we are in a crowded race competing for people's leisure time. And people are taking less and less of it every day. Did you know that there were 705 million unused vacation days last year in the United States? 52% of employees reported having unused vacation days at the end of the year. Those that took vacation days, less than half of those were used for travel, and a quarter of people didn't use any of their days off for travel. So wouldn't all of our jobs be a lot easier if we could just get a doctor to write a prescription for everybody, telling them to take a day off and get outside? We all know there's health benefits and lots of reasons to go camping. Everybody truly does need a prescription for the outdoors. I know it's a cold morning, we had a long day yesterday, so a little bit of a lighter kickoff. I wanted to share some creative work from a group called Nature RX, who's playing off that spoof of a prescription for the outdoors.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength Nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, Nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
If you are overly cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of Nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
That's good. That's a great organization doing work that's all aligned with what we're here to talk about today. Obviously, finding customers is not that easy. I know you're not filling prescriptions at dealerships, and we're not filling prescriptions at campgrounds. But thankfully, many are finding the benefits of being outside on their own. In recent years, the outdoors has been increasingly on trend, and our businesses have been doing very, very well. As we talked about yesterday, the outdoor recreation industry had a US GDP contribution calculation of 2.2%. That's a gross economic output of $734 billion. That's a level higher than other sectors such as mining and chemical products manufacturing. And obviously this number is comprised of a lot, but what I like to look at is that $30 billion of that number was attributed to RV sales. We know it's going to grow. There's a group called Global Market Insights who estimates the global market size of RVing at $36 billion. And they believe it's going to be worth $56 billion by 2024, a 6% compounded annual growth rate. You can see the evidence of the popularity in the outdoors when we look at the national park visitation. It just exceeded 300 million visits for the 4th consecutive year. And the outdoors are trending in marketing. Probably the best example is the work that's been done by REI with their Opt Outside campaign. For 4 years now, they've been closing their stores on Black Friday and encouraging people to go camping. Not only are they paying their 12,000 employees to spend time outdoors, but over 15 million people have participated in this movement, and they now have 700 partner organizations such as Subaru or the Trust for Public Land. We know that the RV and camping industries are collectively thriving, and let's have a look at how business has been doing. Let's start talking with RV sales. Year-over-year success, as you can see here. Data from Statistical Surveys Incorporated shows that we set new retail registration records last year, an increase of 3.57% over 2017. I know there's a lot of attention by the media on the shipment numbers, and rightly so, but if you look at the retail market, it's very, very healthy. People are buying RVs. Likewise, the camping business is strong, both on the public and the private side. At KOA, we like to pay attention about what is happening with you in the RV industry, as 85% of our nights are spent in RVs. For those of you who aren't familiar with our business, I'll give you a little introduction. We're the world's largest network of private campgrounds. We have 518 locations across the US and Canada. We segment those parks by experience in 3 different brands: KOA Journey, KOA Holiday, and KOA Resort. Each of these categories has various requirements about site types and amenities, and specifically on the RV and park model side. Our business has also had year-over-year growth, as you can see here, tracking back to 2011. Our cumulative registration growth during this time period has been 79%. And right now we're tracking 13% up on advanced reservations for the year ahead over where we were last year. So everything's looking very good. There's a few things I like to look at to talk about the health of our business. One of which is system growth. We had 16 new conversion contracts last year, 16 new properties coming into our business. Multi-property ownership has been a big initiative for us, trying to get our best owners to buy another park and expand their portfolio. We now have 27 owners, accounting for 86 of our campgrounds, and that's not counting our corporately owned parks. Investment in improvements. There's been strong investment in parks, people adding money into their businesses to add sites or make improvements. It's very difficult to quantify how many sites have been improved in our system, but just those alone that our resources at the home office have helped with has resulted to 7,600 new or improved RV sites in the past few years. And I'd like to pause and say that this is a theme for all of the private campground industry, and I think this is very important. We just had an RVX meeting last week, and the sentiment about the investment happening in parks is shared not only by KOA, but our friends at Good Sam, Sun Communities, and others. Beyond improvements to current parks, there's a lot of new construction happening, new sites being added for people to camp in. We currently at KOA have 13 contracts in place for new builds of campgrounds. And I'm hearing that across the board from our other friends in the industry as well. And overall, beyond all these indicators for our business, we're seeing a strong commitment to camping on the consumer side. We do survey work every year called the North American Camping Report, and this is our latest data that's showing that 79 million households consider themselves active campers. That's a lot of people camping in North America. And people are camping every year. We've had a 22% increase in people who are camping every year. 39 million households went out and camped last year. And that, like I said, that increased number is since 2014. Really big growth. Not only are they camping every year, they're camping more frequently. This is my favorite piece of the data. 72% increase since 2014 in those who are camping 3 times a year. A lot of people camping every year, camping multiple times a year. This indicates that this is becoming a lifestyle for people. And overall, really healthy growth. We estimate 7.2 million new households have been adding to the camper base over the past 5 years. So as we look ahead, oh, excuse me, I fell on my spot here. As we look ahead on if the growth is going to continue, there's a few indicators that'll show that the economy's on our side. Let's talk about the stock market. The stock market has a direct correlation to our business. When we see at KOA, when the market does well, we see more people camping and more people camping longer. And right now we're positioned very well. Bank of America reports that stocks do well when Congress is split and the White House is under Republican control. Historically, when it's something set up like that, the S&P 500 averages an annual rate of return of 12%. Another indicator, consumer confidence, typically a measure of the overall state of the economy. It's dropped in the past couple of months, but it's still very strong and is rebounding. And we're just 10 points shy of the all-time record. Why this is important is it tracks very closely to retail registrations. As you can see here, the solid line indicates how retail registrations climb as the consumer confidence index increases. And we can't talk about the RV industry without talking about gas prices. Always part of the conversation, obviously. They're remaining very reasonable. As we all know, I think actually Salt Lake is the second lowest spot in the nation. Small fact. The current average across the country is $2.49. And there probably will be some slight increases this year, but should fall well short of inflationary rates. This chart shows how gas prices have changed over the past 10 years. The red line is where it's currently at. Just to put it in perspective about why I'm not very worried about gas prices, is that the yellow bars indicate KOA's growth, like I just showed you. And when we started this growth trajectory, gas prices were much higher than they are right now. So I think there'd be a long way to go before we'd see big changes. And part of the insulation from gas prices is because I point to this trend. We're seeing more and more people camping close to home. 70% of campers are camping within 150 miles of home. This is one of the largest swings in our data that we've seen over the past few years. It's very important in seeing how people's camping habits are changing. But overall, most importantly, we see no indication that consumer interest in buying RVs is slowing down. There was record attendance at the Tampa Super Show in January and in Pomona last fall. I believe it was the second highest in 50 years at the Pittsburgh show. Our data says 39% of campers plan to camp more this year than they did last. And RVIA did research last year that showed that, of the average owner owns 3 RVs in their lifetime, 38% definitely were planning to buy another RV, and 32% said they probably will. Overall, really good indication that purchase intent is high. So, here's where we need to flip the script, though. I think business is healthy. That's what we've been talking about. But we're not necessarily seeing those large gains that we once were. There's definitely a leveling off. And eventually, the market's going to turn down, and will we all be ready? To keep growing, we need to look for new opportunities and continually create and capture new demand. This affects all of us here, the manufacturers, the dealers, suppliers, and the campgrounds. And it's a very pivotal time for us to look at new business segments, create market space, and be opportunistic. To put this in perspective, let's stop and talk for a minute about our core target, the baby boomer. Baby boomers have been the mainstay of the RV business for a long time. And we always talk about how 10,000 of them are retiring every day. I know when I came to KOA 8 years ago, that was the #1 thing that everyone kept saying to me is we've got really strong outlook for this business because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day. Well, the reality is that boomers are increasingly hitting retirement age with a great deal of debt, consumer debt and even student loan debt. In a study by Stanford, a third of boomers had no money saved at retirement. Boomers have less savings and more debt than ever before. So we need to start thinking about some new opportunities. A great way to do that is to talk about age. That's a natural place to start. This shows the breakdown by age, and as you can see there at the top, the millennials make up the largest segment of the camping base right now. That's 41%, and that's up 7% since 2015. If we look at the new campers, over half of people that camped for the first time last year were millennials, 56%. Both of these numbers exceed census population that say millennials are at 31% of our population. So we're over-indexing for camping among millennials. There's a lot of things we can talk about with millennials. A lot of people think that millennials are tenters. They're only tenters. That's not true. 35% of RVers are millennials. That's a 6-point increase since 2014. 51% of millennials say they own their own RV. Really good opportunity to grow this market. It's growing. They are interested in RVs. It's a good target for us to go after. The thing about millennials is they're seeking new experiences. They love new adventures. And the RV and camping industry is perfectly positioned to meet on those desires. We know also millennials tell us they're highly optimistic to camp more. Over half plan to camp more this year than they did last year. Really good target. I like to talk about Gen X, probably because I am Gen X, but also it's very important in this market for a few reasons. One, it's sizable. 36% of the camping population is Gen X. That's a 9-point increase over the past 3 years. But also, they are the largest earners of any generation and the largest spenders of any generation. They spend 11% more than boomers and 33% more than millennials. They're very brand loyal. They have a high affinity for the brands they trust. They're willing to pay a premium for products that they believe in. Our Gen Xers have the most growth in the ownership of RVs than any other segment. Just last year alone, there was a 13-point increase in ownership of RVs. Now, if we look at both of these generations, there's really strong intent to purchase. This data shows by key categories of RVs the intent to purchase. The gold line is millennial. As you can see, really promising numbers here, and interest in different categories. Retail registrations, I love to look at this data. I'm so glad I got my hands on that this year. I picked a couple things to highlight in the millennials. These are the millennials. Now, fifth wheel and travel trailers still make up a pretty small percentage of the overall ownership of those categories. But if you look since 2017, really, really high growth, 15 points and 12 points respectively. And if we go to 2015, just a few years ago, almost over 60 points of increase of ownership in both of these categories. So we can see there's growth here. There's something happening. Let's talk about Gen X. I picked these two categories to focus on, Class A and travel trailer, because they comprise a significant portion of the ownership. I mean, 43%. And I was really surprised at that Class A number. That's a really sizable piece. But not only are they sizable, they're growing. 12 points and 11 points up respectively since 2015 in these categories. So age, we could talk about age all morning. I think the better way to talk about these generations, though, is based off life stage. We all know there's a natural life cycle, right? You're single, you graduate college, you get married, you have a family, you have older children, empty nester, retiree. At each change in life stage, there's an opportunity for us to market to these people differently about what they need at that time. And their purchase decisions and camping habits probably change. The one I think is really important for us to talk about is families. Having a family is a significant life stage in our business. 54% of millennials are camping with kids. There's a lot of focus on millennials. Everyone wants to talk about millennials. It's too big. We got to narrow it down. Let's talk about millennials with kids. When you ask these people what was the trigger that got you to camp more, they said it was having kids. Millennials with children, they're an avid group of campers. 63% camp more than 7 nights a year, and 2/3 of them are planning to camp more this year than they did last year. This shows you how RV ownership among millennials jumps at different life stages. You can see, obviously, we have a trigger happening when people become a couple or when people get married, and another jump when people have children. So again, if you're just talking about millennials and you're blasting messaging in general, you might be missing hitting them with the right message. Focus on what stage of life they're in, and you can be a lot more targeted in your approach. This shows purchase intent by key category for fifth wheel pop-ups, travel trailers, and motorhomes. The yellow is millennial couples with children. As you can see, those bars widely increase as they have kids. Camping with children is important with our business overall. 51% of camping households in general, so this is taking into account Gen X as well and boomers, are camping with kids. Look at that increase number, 17-point increase since 2012. I remember when I started in 2011, the camping segments were largely Caucasian and baby boomer and no children. As you can see in all this data we're talking about today, the camping base is changing. There's a lot of enthusiasm in general among kids in camping. We also do survey work with teens. High enthusiasm, in fact, 90% say they plan to camp as adults, which is great for building our future pipeline. Another key life stage is retirement. We talked about that a bit this morning, and I still think it's very, very important. We know that that's a lucrative target for us to focus on retiring baby boomers. 67% of boomer RVers say they own their RV. Here's where there's opportunity, though. 18% of camping households are boomers. 18%. That compares to 31% of boomers in the population. So can you see how we're under-indexing for camping among boomers? This is a really important number that we can continue to grow. We know they're going to purchase RVs, we know they're going to camp a lot, and we know we're under-indexing to where they're at in the population. So let's switch gears to diversity, one of my favorite things to talk about. If you look here, you can see that the face of camping is changing. There's been a significant increase in diversity. In fact, a 17-point increase since 2012. 29% of camping households right now are multicultural. If we look at that versus census, you can see we're gaining ground here. There's only a 7-point delta right now to the census. And here's the fun one. New campers, people that camped for the first time last year, 51% were from multicultural groups. This is a way larger representation than what would be expected from the census. Now, there's a few specific things we can talk about when we dig into each of these opportunities. First of all, in the Hispanic side, there's been really nice increase in RV usage among Hispanics over the past couple of years. As you can see here, a 6-point increase in RV usage. Other things interesting about Hispanics is that they tend to camp with large groups. We see the average group size of a Hispanic camping trip at 7.5 people. And this is important to note as we think about how usage of our product, whether it's the RV or the campsite, informs our design. If we know people are coming together, a lot of multi-generation camping, how does that impact how we design? And how do we talk to them as marketers to meet their needs? The African American segment is younger. They're the youngest segment. 64% of African Americans are millennials. And here's another big opportunity. Only 1/3 of African Americans own the RV that they're camping in. Huge opportunity to grow this target. We know that they like to RV, but not necessarily purchasing RVs, so we've got a big opportunity here. Let's look at the retail registration data. Few things to note when we look at ethnicity among Class B, fifth wheel, and travel trailers. Up there at the top, those growth numbers for Hispanics are just since last year, 10-point increase across the board. If we look back a couple years, we can see really nice growth coming from the African American segment as well in these different categories. I attribute the growth in minorities in the outdoors to a few key things. One of which is influencer groups. We talked about influencer groups yesterday during the reveal. They were very pivotal in choosing all these winners that we have around us today. These are a few that are specifically focused in the diversity space. Outdoor Afro, Brown People Camping, Latino Outdoors. KOA's worked with each of these groups, among others, and they're really focused in on their target. It's a great way to reach those targets. We also see the National Park Service actively working to create more diversity among their park rangers, which is very admirable and great. Saguaro National Park has a next generation program which focuses on adding more minorities into the park ranger system as well as women. And we're seeing that play off in visitation. Also, marketers have made conscious decisions to integrate more diversity into their advertising, which broadens the appeal. For example, Go RVing, we're all very familiar with that work. I think it's been a beautiful body of work of advertising over the past few years. But you can tell they made a conscious decision to integrate more advertising and work with more influencer groups in this space. So why don't we take a minute and have a look at one of those ads that reference this.
Away is where curiosity can run its course, where little feet run wild, where laughter runs rampant, and adventure runs in the family. Find your away. For a dealer in the RV that's right for you, visit GoRVing.com.
Nice. I got to meet that couple actually yesterday. They stopped by our booth. Really nice people, and they've really enjoyed their relationship that they've had with Go RVing. Okay, I want to talk about the pipeline. We talked about customers in different segments. There's other things that are happening right now that are trending that I think are going to help build our pipeline of future campers and future RV owners. Now, some of these might seem a little counterintuitive to your day-to-day work as we go through them, but it's really important to step back and realize that these are all bringing more people collectively into this lifestyle. First of all, let's talk about the rental market. The rental market is sizable. In fact, 4 in 10 RVers are renting or borrowing the RV they're in. 4 in 10. They're renting from traditional agencies such as Cruise America, and a smaller portion is renting from the peer-to-peer market. This peer-to-peer market space is very interesting. Obviously, the big players are RVshare, Outdoorsy, and MyWay. Our data shows us that 60% of campers are likely or somewhat likely to rent from a peer-to-peer group in the future. And that index is higher when we talk about millennials and those diversity markets that we've been focusing on today. Why rental is important is that the major players in this space are introducing new people to camping and to RVing. And I think it's really important for us to remember from a service perspective on our side and yours that if 4 in 10 people in RVs don't own their RV, it's likely the first time they've been in an RV. And if we can help make sure they've got a good experience, whether they're at our campgrounds or interfacing with you from a service perspective, that positive experience can turn into a future RV customer and a future camping customer. Cabins. Park models are also attracting a new camper to this market. In fact, of all people that camped for the first time last year, 34% of those campers stayed in a cabin. That compares to 16% overall. You can see huge swings. They're very popular among new campers. Cabins are increasing in preference for both millennials and Gen X, is what we see in our data. And at KOA, we've had really great success with deluxe cabins, such as these. We've had an 82% camper night growth in deluxe cabins since 2011. And again, this is largely new trial and contributing to our overall pipeline. Similarly, glamping is trending. Glamping's bringing more people outdoors. This is a picture of one of our glamping tents at our Philadelphia property. And we have these all over the system now, everything from canvas tents to teepees and yurts and tree houses. They're becoming very popular, and we're attracting a new segment of camper. Our data shows that 45% of people are interested in trying some form of glamping. Now, there's a range of options out there. There's things happening on private campgrounds, public campgrounds. There's people with excess land on a vineyard, for example, that are putting up tents. And now there's new multi-location brands that are emerging, such as Under Canvas and Collective Retreats. Probably the most notable in our space today is AutoCamp, because they're putting glamping experience with RVing. They're putting people in these beautiful Airstreams. I got to stay at AutoCamp last month in Russian River in California. They're really nicely done. They have 3 locations in California. They're just now starting to expand to the East Coast. They secured a huge round of funding, and I expect we're going to see a lot more from AutoCamp here very soon. This is great. This is getting people in an RV in a luxurious way. It's going to make them want to buy an RV. Road trips. Very exciting for all of us to see that road trips are increasing in popularity again. Research by our marketing agency, MMGY, says that road trips represented 39% of vacations last year, and that was up 22% from the year before. It's attractive to people because it's lower cost, they can take their pets, they can be spontaneous, make unplanned stops, and also avoid the hassles of air travel. But we are also seeing a trend that people are flying places, then renting and going on road trips. This trend's largely being led by millennials, but we know that they're changing. They're not necessarily clear across the country like they may have once been. They're shorter and close to home, similar to the trend we talked about earlier, but people are definitely getting on the road. AAA shares that 64% of families traveling domestically right now are planning driving vacations. And as you're thinking about marketing messaging and how you can reach this target and get people dreaming about traveling, here's an interesting stat that 86% of Americans feel they haven't seen enough of the country. As an example, of the 59 national parks in the US, less than 20% have seen 5 of them. There's lots of ways you can talk to people to get them thinking about taking a road trip. Another great trend is Bleisure. Bleisure is a mashup of business and leisure. I didn't make this word up. This is a real word out there. It taps into the mindset that you can work from anywhere. It dissolves that boundary between work and play. You see people taking business trips and then adding on a couple days of vacation. Nothing's more well-suited for Bleisure than RVing and campgrounds. Ford did some work around this and some research studies, and these were the desired tools for productivity that people said they need if they have a Bleisure lifestyle. Again, the reasons these are important is it affects how we design our RVs and how we design our campgrounds. We need to continue to meet those needs of people that want to work on the road. In our North American camper data, it shows us that people who highly value Wi-Fi, for example, on a campground, will camp 6 more nights per year. So we have to continually invest in technology to keep ahead of that. Okay, let's talk about van life. We talked about van life yesterday. We've got our van life winner, which was really great. If you search hashtag van life on Instagram, you're gonna get 4.6 million hits. There's this romanticized resurgence of interest in van life. And in fact, on Pinterest, some of the top words that men search for in Pinterest is camper van, van conversion, and side door hammock. This is reflected for sure in registration data. 26% increase in Class B registrations last year, the largest one of the motorized segment. We see interest in our data spike, people wanting to try van life among millennial couples without children and Asian demographic. There's a lot of rental options out there that are playing into this, such as Juicy and Escape camper vans. And there's even one right here in Salt Lake, I believe it's called Base Camper Vans. So it's one thing to understand all of these targets we've been talking about and all of these trends, but it's really important to strategize on how to reach them. If you don't know much about me, I'm a marketer. Before I came to KOA, I was in the consumer products good industry, so marketing's my thing. So we're gonna talk a little bit about how we reach these targets. And I can tell you that it's all about digital. Digital formats are key to how you're reaching these people. For many long-standing industries such as ours, digital can be viewed as a disruption. But as more and more people are doing business online, it's forced us to adapt. For us at KOA, 48% of all of our reservations right now are made online, and that's been an 11-point increase over the past 4 years. We know at KOA that people are online for every part of their trip, and so we stepped back and tried to understand the cyclical nature of camping and planning. And we think about what frame of mind the customer is in at every given segment, and then we tailor our marketing messaging based off that time of year. So right now we're in the middle of the plan phase, and here pretty soon we're getting ready to shift to go. But to illustrate that, I thought I'd share with you our latest advertising around the plan phase. From my time in products marketing, we always believed you had to touch someone 7 times before you could get them to buy your product, and we tried to do that at KOA. We believe someone has to see our work some way and somehow 7 times before we can get a reservation. But I think that might even be more on the RV purchasing side. Google, can I back up for a minute? Thank you. Google introduced this concept of micro moments a few years ago. They did some research. Their example was purchasing a car, which is very similar to purchasing an RV. So I thought we could dig into that a little bit here this morning because I think there's some good learnings. We all know that the average research timeline for a purchase of an RV or a car can be months, can take a long time. Within that time, there's countless intent-driven moments where someone's going to the internet and doing a search to answer a question. It could be, what is the safest? What is the best quality? Will it fit my family? What's my monthly payment? Where should I buy this? These are micro moments. So Google did a study, and they looked at one woman's quest to buy a car. They analyzed her clicks, website visits, and the videos she watched. In a 3-month time period, there were 900 touch points with that woman. She had 139 Google searches related to her car purchase. 139. That's 139 opportunities where she intentionally sought out information. It's 139 opportunities for a car manufacturer or a dealer to meet her with relevant, useful information that would help her make her decision. Here is an example of one of the digital paths for her micro moment of where she was asking, is it right for me? As you can see, she had a lot of searches for manufacturers. She looked at videos and photos. She went to review sites. Here's her micro moment around where should I buy it. This brings it to the dealer level. She's looking again at review sites. She's doing searching on where's the best place in town. Those that are going to be most successful in converting her to your dealership are going to be able to meet her there digitally when she's asking that question. So naturally, you're asking, how do I meet them there? The first thing is we need to understand that people are visual buyers. This underscores the importance of photography and video. People form an impression in a mere 50 milliseconds. Their brain hasn't even caught up yet, but based off what they've seen, they have an impression of you. For our world in camping, TripAdvisor did a study that hotels that had over 20 high-resolution photos receive 150% more traveler engagement and a 22% increase in booking inquiries just based off the strength of their photography. We know people are searching. In fact, 75% of people are looking for visual content before they make any purchase. Only 3% of people never search for content before they make a purchase. And it can't just be any photo. A bad photo is detrimental to the first impression, and you may never get that camper back. Video is also important. People are 85% more likely to buy a product after they view a product video. In fact, 4 times as many customers would rather watch a video than read about it. Going back to that auto example, 60% of people who watched a video while researching cars have visited a dealership. I think that can easily apply to the RV industry as well. Now, there's lots of options of where you can place video. You can put it on your website. You can put them in social media. You can put them in ads. You can also even layer them on over-the-top TV advertising that'll play on streaming sites such as Hulu. And that's that ad I just showed you. That's exactly what we're doing with that. Search. Let's talk about search. Search is critical. You need to keep up with changes in search algorithms and make sure you're as close to the top of the page as possible when people are searching for you. Or you need to hire an agency that's going to make sure your website keeps up to the top for search results. A good way to do that is with content. We have a blog on our site. The blog 1 is providing value to customers. It's positioning us as a thought leader. But the sneaky thing about our blog is really that it's allowing us to rank higher for search on a variety of topics. And I would suggest you try that. Digital advertising is essential. It's a critical part also of the search game. You want to be ranking highly in the paid search ads as well. Data allows us to be very personalized in our digital advertising. It can also be tied to location, such as shown here. This is something called geo-targeting. You can actually target ads to potential customers when they're within a certain radius of a specific location. Maybe that is at a campground. You want to hit people with your message about your dealership. Maybe it's at one of your competitors. Maybe it's at a national park. But you are able to greet customers wherever they are and send them notifications about your business when they're active in your area. You can also prospect for future customers with digital advertising by presenting people advertising based off what your consumer behavior you know about them. For example, Facebook knows a lot about people. We all know that. You can buy ads within Facebook and target people specifically based off what they like or what they engage in. You can also retarget people. We do this a lot at KOA. People that have come to our site and then left and didn't make a reservation, we can follow them around the internet until we bring them back. We actually have a $20 ROI for every dollar we spend on retargeting advertising. But overall, you need to manage your digital presence. With all this activity happening online, it's really important that you manage your digital listings. This is what I'm talking about: GPS coordinates, address, phone number, website. You may think that it's updated everywhere, but it's not. We use a service actually called Yext that publishes digital listing content for all of our locations to over 100 sites, apps, and voice search applications on a regular basis, trying to keep that up to date. It'd be very hard for an individual business owner to do that on their own, so it's something we do for them. I would highly encourage you to look into something like that, because this is how people are going to find you. We also know you have to actively manage reviews. Going back to the auto example, 7 in 10 auto shoppers believe online reviews are very or extremely important part of their research process. 8 in 10 millennials seek opinions from online reviews before they make any purchase. And data shows that those who actively manage reviews have higher levels of engagement and conversion. There's other ways people are influenced online besides reviews. And we've talked a little bit about it this morning, but social media is obviously the first place to start. Social media is very important to those prospects, the millennial targets, the diversity targets we were talking about earlier. Our North American Camping Report shows that social media has the most impact on those groups. And overall, almost 2/3 of people say it influences their decision on where to camp. In fact, I found this interesting that 1/3 of millennials will even post something to canvass opinions on if they should buy it before they buy it, or where they should go. So they're even just using it to canvass ideas. Influencers, we talked about, also allow you to use social media to reach a very targeted group if you can form some smart partnerships. This is one that we work with. We work with numerous ones. This is Follow Your Detour, for example, who is at our Moab campground. Again, it's a different form of media. It's a different way of investing your money to be very specific in who you're targeting. Okay, this all comes to data. Data is important. You need to be making data-informed decisions, and also data will allow you to customize your customer experience. You have to be building a customer database as best you can. If you can provide value to customers, they will give you some of their data back in return. You want to get people's email addresses if you can. Sometimes there's other third-party vendors you can use to help you supplement your database, such as credit card companies can actually layer on different types of purchases that customer makes. It allows a different way for you to target them with advertising. There's also email services. Based off what you know about who the customer is and where they live, they can try to match what the likely email address is. So there's lots of opportunities, but you need to build data. In our world, we use our database to try to deliver a personalized web experience, for example. So based on how we know people are coming to our site, whether that's through certain search engines, certain websites, what they searched on, or what we know about them from the customer data, we can show them different content, different images that meets their needs of what they're looking for when they get to our website. And research will show that there's a 66% increase in conversion and a 33% decrease in bounce rates if you can personalize your web experience. We talk a lot about the web, but for us, web and mobile are seamless. You need to have a mobile-first strategy. Web traffic to KOA.com surpassed desktop traffic a few years ago, actually. So everything we do is mobile-first, whether that's how our website's responsive or how our email's showing up on the phone. And going back to my favorite example about car shopping and how that's relevant to you, they show that half of all car shoppers are on their smartphones while they are at the dealership. So they've found the RV they're interested in. They probably already talked to you about it. Then they're on their phone, researching, are they getting the best deal? Is that the right model for them? Should they be going somewhere else? But if you're smart with your mobile marketing, you can get in front of that when they're asking those questions in that micro moment, and you can seal the deal. I know that's a lot. A lot of stuff there in digital. It's very complex, and it changes all the time. But if we switch gears a little bit offline here, the most important thing we can do to reach these target generations is anticipate their needs. It's so important that we are providing new innovations before they even realize that they need it. That was Steve Jobs' approach, and it's really paid off well for them. There's a lot of trends we talked about today that we can try to integrate into the design of our campgrounds and into our RVs. Some examples from the campground business is group camping. We've watched the group camping numbers increase over time in our data, and we pay specific attention to how we're co-locating sites on our campgrounds. That could be this group of families camping together in these park models. It could be same with RV sites, but also we're playing around with co-locating sites together, whether that is tent, cabin, and RV, because we know that multi-generation families are camping in different ways together. We've also developed a new concept called the KOA patio. We have specific requirements around the size of the patio and the features that are on the patio experience. We believe that you guys are working really hard on the inside of that RV, and we want to enhance that outdoor experience, and that's a perfect combination. We've actually trademarked that, and we don't just put them on RV sites, we put them on tent sites and cabin sites as well. Which brings me to Campground of the Future. I'd like to talk about here for a few minutes. Most of you are aware that KOA has been working on this Campground of the Future project, and we're displaying it here this week. We're always working to modernize our experience on our campgrounds, and this project was great. It got our whole company involved, everywhere from every person in our office invited to participate, and people in our franchise system as well, providing ideas to help us think forward about what we can evolve in what we do and how we can do it differently. So we looked at various features of modern campground design, and then we took into account how technology is going to advance and how things might change. But one thing we centered on throughout this whole experience is that fundamentally, we believe that the reasons people camp won't change. People camp now to connect with nature and connect with each other, and I think that's going to be the case whether it's in 2030 or 2070. But how they camp may change. So we built out several virtual reality models across different landscapes: forest, coastal, mountain, urban, and desert. And you'll see in those models, if you stop by our booth, a few things we took into account, such as environmental aspects. We know that there is going to only increase the demand for a focus on conservation, low carbon footprint. You'll see a lot of that integrated into our models, as well as the use of solar power. How better to connect with nature. You know, in this high-tech world that's going to evolve, it's going to be more important than ever for people to be able to connect with nature. And there's things we played with, such as an outdoor-in concept for cabins or our main building. We also believe that the Campground of the Future should serve a role in the community from an education standpoint, provide experiential activities for people to learn more and engage with the outdoors. And health and wellness, that trend is going to continue to go up. So our Campgrounds of the Future take into account how you integrate recreation on site and also connect to the broader community. Group space and sites, we've talked about that. You'll see a lot of social space for people to gather and recreate together or spend time together in the Campground of the Future. We also had some fun playing with extreme sites. For example, in different places in the world, you can now stay in underwater hotels. So we've built underwater cabin experiences. And we also have some RV sites pushed into the sides of mountains. Again, just trying to get people to be closer to nature in any way that we can. Turnkey camping, I think that it's only going to continue to increase as these younger generations, like the alpha generation coming up, is going to expect more full service. They want to show up at the campground and have everything set up for them. And so we've played around a little bit with that, and we'll continue to grow in that way. And also urban. Like I said, we have an urban campground. This is all about how we can bring the magic of the campground experience to the inner city. So I invite you to come to our booth. You know, we've got virtual reality Oculus goggles. We've got touch screens. You can meet with our team. And this is really just a conversation. I think these are just the start. And really the way that this model becomes so much more powerful if it takes ideas from all the different segments that are gathered here at RVX and we continue to grow this. And it really can become a roadmap for how all of us are approaching our businesses and growing it for the future. That's a picture of our model. But lastly, if I can, I think it's one thing to talk about who we're going after. It's one thing to talk about how we're going to reach them, but you have to give them the right message. And I think that always comes down to the why. We all have to keep focused about why we're in this business. We're not here really about selling a site or a product. We're selling the experience. If you look at these images I pulled from Instagram, that's my favorite thing to do, is go look at what campers are posting, RVers are posting. You can see that we're really not in the RV business. We're in the memory-making business. We're in the family bonding business. We are in the stress reduction business, the get outside business. If you can connect people with how they're going to use that RV to the experience they're going to have, you're going to win every time. We have to keep selling the outdoors. One thing we've been doing at KOA is we've launched this program called the Get Out There Grant, and it's not about camping. It's all about celebrating people getting outside. We launched it last year. We had lots of applications. We narrowed it down to a couple of winners, one of which was wild ice skating, and the other of which was this really beautiful, touching story of a couple where the woman, the wife, has early onset Alzheimer's, and her husband wanted to take her on an RV vacation. Since that's so relevant to why we do business, I thought I'd show you a brief clip.
My wife Diane and I are traveling the West courtesy of the KOA Get Out There Grant program. One day we went to see the doctor and he gave us the official diagnosis of Diane having early onset Alzheimer's. You just have to continue to live your life. So we thought it would be fun just to get in the RV and go, and we're having a great time.
Now you can go to this website and watch the full 8 to 10 minute video of that couple's story. Really powerful. We're just launched the program again this year, so encourage you to apply or push that out through your networks. It's really great to see the stories that we get in about people that want to get outdoors. So to wrap up, thank you. It's been really nice to have Campgrounds here as part of the conversation at RVX. I think it's a really powerful partnership that we can form together. And like I said earlier, this is such a pivotal time for us. We're seeing high numbers, but we have to be honest that things are leveling off. And we need to dig in to some of these targets we've talked about today, find new pockets of interest, and then maximize our focus there so we can continue to drive new RV sales and create new campers. I think we can do that. This is a great place to start that. So thank you for your time this morning. I hope to see all of you at the Campground of the Future booth. Please stop by and visit with us. And the expo hall opens again at 10 o'clock, so have a great day. Thank you.